What if I told you that the sweetener you're using to be healthy is actually one of the reasons why your hormones are out of balance? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Danielle, and today we're diving into a topic that affects so many of us that are dealing with hormonal and metabolic issues, and that is sugar substitutes. Finding the right sugar sweetener became crucial in my journey to recover my health, and today I'm sharing what I've learned in my own Sweetener Showdown. What I've discovered might actually surprise you because some of it even contradicts popular health advice that you might have heard. So here are the contenders. Today we're comparing 7 different popular sweeteners, some of which I've heard a lot about on TikTok, on Instagram. Here they are. We have regular sugar, stevia, honey, maple syrup, sweet and low, coconut sugar, and monk fruit sweetener. Then in this episode, I will break down how each of these actually affects your blood sugar, insulin levels, and overall health. Plus, I'll share my personal experience with each one. So when we consume sweeteners, our body responds by releasing insulin to process the sugar. And for those with insulin resistance, PCOS, or other metabolic issues, certain sweeteners can trigger excessive insulin resistance, which worsens symptoms like weight gain, fatigue, and cravings. The glycemic index measures how quickly a food raises blood sugar levels. But here's something crucial that's actually pretty often overlooked. So some sweeteners might have a low glycemic index, but they can still trigger a significant insulin response. And this is why my doctor's advice about sweet and low versus stevia was so surprising to me, and why personal experimentation is so very important. Because what works for one person might not work for another, even if it contradicts what's trending in the wellness world. Let's start with our baseline, which is regular table sugar. It has a high glycemic index of around 65, it causes rapid blood sugar spikes, and it triggers significant insulin release. For those with insulin sensitivity issues, it's generally the worst option. I've almost completely eliminated regular sugar since starting my gut healing, hormone healing journey. Next option we're going to talk about is honey. And while it can be natural and it also contains some beneficial nutrients, especially in raw honey, honey still has a glycemic index of around 55 to 60, and it's only slightly better than table sugar in terms of blood sugar impact. Dr. Mark Hyman, who founded the Center for Functional Medicine at the Cleveland Clinic, actually has a very interesting perspective on honey. He says, the average hunter-gatherer ate about 800 different species of plants, but they also ate wild animals and wild fish. They didn't eat sugar unless they found a honeycomb where the bees had made honey, and that was very rare, and it was also very painful to get because he describes a group called the honey hunters in Nepal who literally climb trees hundreds of feet tall with burning sticks to smoke out bees and get the honeycomb. That is how rare and precious honey was in our evolutionary past. And sure, I like the taste of honey, but I found that I can only use it occasionally and in very small amounts without experiencing energy crashes, probably like our ancient ancestors would have. Okay, next up is maple syrup. Now, this is assuming we're talking about real maple syrup, not the artificial kind that's loaded with high fructose corn syrup. Real syrup has a glycemic index around 54. It contains minerals like zinc and manganese, but still raises blood sugar considerably. And like honey, I treat this as an occasional treat rather than a daily sweetener. Coconut sugar is next up with a glycemic index of about 35. Coconut sugar is certainly better than the previous options, and it contains some nutrients and insulin fiber that slows sugar absorption. However, it still contains fructose, which can be problematic in large amounts for those with insulin resistance. And it works okay in baking, but I would use it sparingly. Stevia has a glycemic index of 0 and contains no calories. This is a popular choice. You have Stevia, which is a soda, often recommended for diabetes and those with insulin resistance. However, and this is where my experience differs from common advice, some research suggests that stevia can actually trigger an insulin response in some people, even without raising blood sugar. And that's what I've found to be true personally. Next up is Sweet and Low, and this artificial sweetener has been around since the late 1800s. No calories, glycemic index of 0, and while it's gotten some negative press over the years, recent research has actually cleared it of its cancer concerns. And according to an MD Anderson Cancer Center, saccharin was placed on a list of cancer-causing chemicals by the Department of Health and the Human Services in the late 1970s or early 1980s. but that designation was based on flawed research, so the ruling was reversed by the year 2000. Lastly, we have monk fruit, and monk fruit extract is also 0 on the glycemic index and calorie-free. However, most monk fruit sweeteners are combined with erythritol, which recent research suggests may affect insulin levels. And according to the Mayo Clinic, erythritol and a similar sugar alcohol called xylitol may be linked to an increased risk of heart attack or stroke. I found pure monk fruit without erythritol works well for me, but it can be harder to find and more expensive. However, I've actually found monk fruit without erythritol the easiest at Walmart, which sounds shocking, but it is true. This is where I want to emphasize something important. My experience contradicts what several health influencers online recommend. My doctor advised me to try Sweet and Low instead of Stevia, even though Stevia is often promoted as the more natural or popular option. But after making the switch, both my mom and I seriously saw great improvements in our insulin sensitivity markers. And while this doesn't mean that Sweet and Low is better for absolutely everyone, it has worked better for us than Stevia did. The moment you've all been waiting for, the final ranking. This decision and ranking has been based on research and my personal experience. So here it is, from the most harmful to the least harmful sugar substitutes for those with insulin sensitivity issues. And last place is common table sugar. And I just want to add that brown sugar is not healthier than white sugar because they are both heavily processed and they both have a very high glycemic index, although white sugar is still technically the most processed, but they're both at the bottom. Then we have honey, then maple syrup. Next is coconut sugar, then stevia, which is surprisingly not the best for everyone. Next, you have Sweet and Low, which worked surprisingly well for me. And the winner is pure monk fruit without erythritol. Remember, everyone's body responds differently to sweeteners. So the best approach is to monitor your own symptoms and energy levels after using different options. What worked for me might not work for you, and that's okay. As Dr. Hyman explains, sugar of any kind affects a part of your brain that makes you addicted, similar to how we respond to little text notifications or even drugs like cocaine. And when you're overweight, you need more and more sugar to stimulate those pleasure centers, creating a vicious cycle. If you're struggling with PCOS, hypothyroidism, or other metabolic issues, I encourage you to experiment carefully and consider working with a healthcare provider who understands metabolic health. I want to know, have you guys tried any of these sweeteners? Which one's your favorite? I would love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content on managing hormonal health naturally. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, your body will thank you.